So welcome to a Garden Guardians video. After I released the first lesson of Garden Guardians and made clear what Garden Guardians was about, which essentially it's mainly about two things: herbalism and healing ourselves with herbs and with natural gifts from the earth. And number two, having a relationship with the earth that is beneficial for the earth and is also beneficial for us. So just being part of that natural cycle of nature, and there's so many different things that means. So, but ever since I started that, everybody within Unicult who's a part of Garden Guardians made it very clear they want to learn tinctures. So today we're going to start with our introduction to tinctures. And this is something, like, I don't know what y'all are expecting it to be like complicated or anything like that, but it's truly not complicated at all. I only started learning how to do this a couple years ago. The hardest part of it all is really learning your plant identifications, how to identify the plants that you are going to use. Plants that you're going to use, and you need to be able to identify them to a T and then decipher them from other plants, especially potentially dangerous lookalikes and things like that. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be making a tincture out of one of the plants that we already learned about in lesson 1. We're going to be making a wild lettuce tincture, or a prickly lettuce tincture, or a lettuce tincture. It could just be a lettuce tincture. Right now there's a trend going around TikTok where everybody's making like lettuce tea, like they're boiling lettuce water with the fresh plant matter, and it's either making them a little bit different, or it's making people who can't sleep be able to sleep a little bit easier. So that's going on right now. The reason that's happening is because there is a latex substance inside of wild lettuces and lettuces in general. It's called lacticarium, and it has properties in it which react to the brain very similarly to like opiates. But they're not opiates, they're non-addictive, but they just react with the same receptors and kind of give you the same sort of result as far as like really strong pain relief and relaxation, and maybe a little bit of feeling different, things like that. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Now, I did want to show you this first. So this is wild lettuce. This is actually a prickly lettuce. Wild lettuce doesn't have like the spines, but as far as like the medicinal properties go, like they're so similar. They're basically the same. It's not really going to make much of a difference if you use this or if you use regular wild lettuce. We are actually today going to be using lettuce from my garden, and I'll tell you why for a second. It's not going to matter. This is fresh lettuce from my garden that has bolted, and we're actually using it today because it's flowered, but it hasn't like gone to seed yet. So this is when you first want to use it, when it's going to be the strongest. You can totally make a lettuce tincture when it's at this stage and there's no flower yet. You can totally make a lettuce tincture after the flower is fully bloomed. It just might not be as strong. You're still going to get some effects out of it, but this is what a lot of the long time folk method herbalists say to do, is go ahead and use it. Go ahead and use it when it's at this stage. So this hasn't like started to go to seed yet. It just started flowering. So this is really easy. I actually learned how to do this the first time around, not with a lettuce tincture the first time around, but I learned how to do this online. There's a YouTuber who goes by She Is of the Woods. I'm literally just going to cut this up and put it in the jar. She Is of the Woods. I highly recommend checking out her videos. Everything that she does is folk method. She learned how to do it from her grandma, and her grandmas, I think, plural. And her whole thing is like, you are totally smart enough to do this. Herbalism is something that we should all be, I mean, really, we're all in. Woo, my chair just kind of broke under me. That's okay. I'm just gonna turn it around here and continue to sit on it. But anyway, that was weird. But her whole thing is, you're totally smart enough to do this. And you truly are smart enough to do this. You're smart enough to find a plant, identify it, cut it up, put it in a jar, and then the following steps, which you'll see in just a minute, are just as easy. This is like the folk method of doing this. There are some people that say when you do tinctures, you need to use like grain alcohol and you need to do all these measurements and measure things in and then like boil them down and then like add more water because like you removed water. Really, you just need to use vodka. 100 proof vodka is best. 100 proof vodka is best. If you can swing 100 proof vodka, get 100 proof vodka. It is a little bit more expensive. I use 100 proof vodka when I can. The rest of the time I use 80 proof vodka. 80 proof vodka is still going to have a close enough to a 50-50 ratio that as long as you're not actually adding water to the jar. For most plants of course contain water content, but there's not going to be enough plant matter fitting in this jar, the amount of water that's in the plant matter, to really make that big of a difference in your calculations. It's still going to be strong enough. Also, I would advise if you're using 80 proof vodka, maybe don't try to pack the herbs like as tightly. When you're doing some tinctures, you can pack it a little bit more. Something like this is gonna be perfect. We're just gonna fill it all the way to the top with vodka. I am not a doctor whatsoever. This is of course all educational purposes only. Herbalists aren't even actually recognized officially in the United States. So even if somebody has like a certificate for herbalism, which you can totally go to like herbalism schools and things like that, and get like fancy certificates and like pay all this money for these courses, but you can get the same information and learn how to do the same skills I mean online. Like, it sounds really cliche, but like online. If you learn better like within a classroom setting, I'm sure you could even just find like a class off to the side. One of the other resources that I really like to use is a podcast. It's the Holistic Herbalism podcast, and it is done by Ren and Katya, and I believe it is the Holistic Wellness Center. I can't remember where it's located at, but if you just go on like Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, and you type in Holistic Herbalism Podcast, they should be one of the first things to pop up. But they offer classes, and they talk about their classes a lot in the podcasts. Full disclaimer, I have not attended any of their classes, but I've gotten a lot of good information just from listening to those podcasts. With that, coupled with books and videos, and then just learning how to ID plants has been the biggest thing. I've used field guides for that. I've also used the AIs, like the AI apps. I highly recommend not using those solely and just trusting that 100%, because I mean, it's a computer. Whenever you're IDing things, like, there's so many factors at play. Plants are in many different stages. It could be a wrong identification. So make sure that you know your stuff. Make sure you know your dangerous lookalikes, and make sure that you are 150% sure of a plant that you're identifying before you use it to make a tincture or consume it. Like, I can't stress that enough. I do not ever advise using a plant medicinally or consuming it unless you are 150% sure that you know exactly what that plant is and what it's going to do. So we got our lettuce. By the way, I also did not wash this. When I was watering the garden, I kind of sprayed it off with the hose. I recommend doing that if you're going to wash it, especially if it's a personal use tincture like this one. This is not going to be one that I'm going to be selling in my shop. So I took it out of the garden, I cut it up, because if you soak it in water or anything like that, or like rinse it off like a lot after you've cut it, you're going to wash away all that lacticarium. And you want that lacticarium because that's where the pain relief and healing effects are going to be, and we want that to infuse into the vodka. So I've given this an opportunity to kind of go down a little bit and give it a few taps. I have a little tincture shop, so like if you really don't want to do this, I'm sure I'll make another lettuce tincture at some point, and at some point I'll have it available in my shop for people to purchase. But like, I don't want this to be like a big commercialized thing. Herbalism is for everyone. especially, I mean, you should be able to use any method really you want. There's so many, but the folk method is what our ancestors from all over the world like have been doing stuff like this, like using herbs to heal themselves in using different herbs, different methods. So you're totally smart enough to do this, just like April says from She Is of the Woods. And I want everybody to feel like they can do it and feel empowered to do it and try to do it. It's so beneficial for you and the earth to build that relationship and learn how to use these plants. So it's gonna spill over a little bit, but we want this to be like all the way full to the tippy top with vodka. I did use a clean jar, by the way, a clean new jar, a brand new top, a brand new lid. It's okay if the rings are old. I mean, just kind of the same rules with canning. The rings are used over and over, but you want a clean new lid, and you want a clean new jar. So that's what we've done. So now, how long do you wait? You want to wait 6 to 8 weeks. Some people say 4 to 6 weeks. Definitely 6 to 8. Longer is better. A lot of people, when they try to make tinctures, one of the things that they will do is they will completely pulverize the plant. That could damage your tincture. They'll use like alcohol that's too strong, like grain alcohol. That could damage your tincture. It could potentially make it a little bit unsafe and a little bit more close to a pharmaceutical. That's more likely when you're going to have like a bad reaction to it. So don't overthink it. Don't think you need all this fancy equipment and oh, I'm going to take it up to the next notch and pulverize it, or I'm going to use stronger alcohol. Just use 80 to 100 proof vodka. 80 to 100 proof vodka. Put it in a jar. Just cut it up. You want to cut it up to expose more surface area, but you do not need to pulverize it. We've been making medicine like this for a really long time. I shouldn't say medicine on YouTube. Let's call it what it is. It's an herbal remedy. It's a natural remedy. It's an herbal tincture. So yeah, that's all you do. You can give it a few turns and a few shakes, and we are going to let this sit in a cool, dry area for 6 to 8 weeks. Make sure you put a label on it. You want to have a label on it. Write the date on it so you actually know how much time has passed. Don't be like me and just not put a date on it and then forget when you made it, because I always think I'm gonna remember and I never do. So don't be like me. I am better now. I have learned. Put a label on it for sure. Once you're done, strain out all the plant matter, and then you have it. Then you're left over with tincture. Thanks for hanging out. And a lot of tinctures, just a heads up, are made using this method, just with different plants. There's very few plants that you have to use like a different process or different ratios. So if those come up, like I'll totally let you know. But for the most part, a lot of tinctures can be made using this method. And I do recommend, if you want to see more videos kind of in this style, go and check out that YouTube channel I referenced, She Is of the Woods with April. She has a ton of videos really similar to this one, just making just making tinctures and talking like this. So definitely go check her out. She's awesome. She has no idea who I am. But that's it. Thank you so much, Unicult, Garden Guardians, and outside watchers. Uni Bliss.